Agriculture Center projects, Mr. Carter.
Try to relate this one. I think the primary consideration today is the proposed conduct of a joint meeting with the Amherst Board to discuss this project jointly. And what Mr. Rogers, the Amherst Amherst administrator, has proposed is to meet, well, he initially proposed to meet today. I didn't think that would work out. And now he's offered the 20th of the month. And location, time, et cetera, subject to the board's decision, to be determined. And they've offered to come over here, and we just need to find a suitable meeting place.
What's the 20th or 28th, I thought was their board meeting.
Whenever their board meeting is when it was proposed, I thought, which I thought meant it would be in Amherst. But before we go too far in that discussion, we've talked as a committee, and I think before we go to that step, we should have a committee meeting of the two county administrator, and the ag committee rep, or there's two of them, and the extension agent. I think we should, before we involve all the boards and everybody, I think it would be good to.
You're not ready.
Sorry?
Yeah, I don't think you're ready.
Yeah, I think we should just have another committee meeting, because, as we know, and I mentioned to Mr. Carter and the rest of the board, there's some confusing information and conflicting information being shared by somebody, and I'm not sure who's saying what to you, but what you're hearing and what I'm hearing aren't matching up. And I think that there's some good questions that were brought up that need to be addressed in our committee. Before we do any other, before we move forward as two full boards.
That's a tremendous project. It's going to be very expensive.
And keep in mind though, you're probably right. The 20-year plan of this project, however, the commitment from the counties at this point is only proposed to be three things. Number one, a 50-50 share in acquisition of the land, the study of the land, of the property, and then resources of the two counties to help facilitate grant funds and that type of thing. That's it. There is.
Number one comment is not the very first thing you do.
Yeah, I'm just saying those were the three things.
Don't worry about the land, then.
Yeah. But securing a contract pending other things is absolutely something, we would be willing to do this if these things work out. And if they don't, then it's just like any real estate negotiation. You have contingencies. But those are the only three things that have come out of any meeting I've attended. Now, I think there may have been some conversations behind the scenes with Mr. Carter and someone else that might lead someone to think something else. But the committee who's doing this, not an individual, but the committee, it's their understanding that the only commitments from the counties at this point, and once you get past that point, it's handed off to that organization that will be responsible for the funding, for the operations, for the organization, for all that. But I think those are details that we as a committee, and I'm using the word committee twice, and I don't need to because it's two different groups. Right? The current committee of the two boards working together, I think that group needs to have another meeting to clear the air on some of these points that have come up. And then, if we want to get together as two boards.
At this point, the only commitment that we have is contributing bodies to that committee. So, and I'm happy with that. One thing I've learned in my brief time that I've been sitting up here is not to vote in favor of something you're dead set against just because you think that the information might be valuable to everybody else. So I'm certainly prepared to get a report from the committee and a recommendation from the committee that's really clear about how we should proceed so that we would have something substantive that we can actually talk about it.
All right.
So I agree with Mr. Parker that the committee should meet again.
Do another one.
Yeah, I've noted to the board, subject to disagreeing today, I plan to leave Saturday for Colorado and be gone for a couple of weeks. Hopefully that doesn't impact anything.
Well, you should definitely be part of it, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When you get back.
Just be when you get back.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, when you're trying to work around 8, 9 different schedules, I think it's 9 people on this committee.
Yeah,
It takes some time to get something
I'll
scheduled.
have Amanda, we'll work throughout the week. We'll work with Mr. Rogers on coordinating date, meeting place, et cetera.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that was an easy one.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Um,
Did everybody get a chance to do their thing? Okay, then the radio subscriber upgrade.
Right, Susie Moore came over, I guess late last week or earlier this week, and, late last week, and reminded me and reiterated that the proposition from Motorola to, upgrade the mobile and portable radios that the county has from the previous, radio system project that we did with Motorola a few years ago. The concern that was presented to our staff by Motorola staff was the current mobile and portable radios that are used by the county, fire, rescue, the schools, and the service authority are no longer supported, and when one breaks, they're not going to repair it, et cetera. So if the board looks at page 3 of Susan's report, it's sort of a simpler, more straightforward way of looking at it. Subject to discussion, of course. Motorola has proposed a total cost of just over $1.6 million and offered almost $5,500 in trade-in allowance. So the total outlay, if the board decided to go forward with this today, would be just almost $1,058,000. And there's a breakdown of the cost between the entities, the groups that actually utilize the radios, the sheriff's department, fire and rescue, government services, schools, and the service authority. There's also a proposal or options from Motorola on financing the radios. The board elected to do that. We just didn't want, because this trade-in allowance from Motorola is set to expire at the end of the month, to not bring this right back to the board. And we have asked Motorola to extend the trade-in allowance in this consideration until September, but we haven't heard back from them yet. So we felt it was important, our responsibility, of course, to bring this back to the board for your input, consideration. It's just,
When the sheriff's authority and the schools pay for their own, don't they?
they did, I'm sure.
But schools, we gonna be paying, so.
Sorry.
Well, no, they got all that, yeah.
Just scares me. Yeah, I'm at the same difficulty with this, I'm sure, as the board is. We did not anticipate this at the staff level. As Susan reported, I think our project started, it was delayed for whatever reason, so it wasn't finished until February 2015, if I recall correctly. And here we are, 6 years later, and they're saying those radios need to be decided about.
Now, is there any particular reason why we ain't with Harris?
Susan's looking at it, if you look at her report, I mean, it's to be determined, but I guess at least from the inquiry she's made and her own knowledge of the radios, she doesn't, her report indicates that, and I don't know, I'm not really a radio person, but I think at the staff level, we think the Harris radios may not be as good as the Motorola radios.
Does Albemarle got Motorola or?
They have a radio system, but they use Motorola radios.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing, I guess, about being with one group is they can communicate. Nelson to them.
Yeah, well, the Motorola radios, sorry, I'm not disagreeing, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Motorola radios, as far as what was related to me, that Albemarle, Charlottesville, the regional jail, et cetera, use, comport to the Harris radio system.
Is this something that some of the CARES money could be allocated towards?
I was going to suggest that. Kenny and I discussed it briefly before the meeting. It's possible, but we need to dig down further to confirm whether or not some of that money could be used. The allowances in the government to the federal Department of the Treasury don't really comport to how you would really like to use the money. And so it's where it potentially suggests opportunities. It's not very definitive, so we probably have to make some inquiries.
Yeah, I noticed in the budget amendment resolution from the schools that was allocated some of the federal money, that they had a checklist of those things that could happen. Do we have something like that makes it easy?
Not yet.
It's too bad.
And I'm not sure because I haven't really studied the allowances for their uses of the fund, but I'm going to suggest that they may not be, they're certainly subject to probably some of the same requirements, but maybe not all the same that we are, and vice versa. For example, we don't have learning loss. They
Right.
do.
Clearly.
So I know it's a conundrum for the board, and we certainly don't drop this on you, but as I said, given that we don't know if Motorola is going to extend this date until September, we felt it incumbent upon us to bring it back.
So when do you need a decision by?
Well, I've been against this project because, I think it's totally ass ridiculous that you spend that kind of money
Yeah.
and get 6 years.
And it's gonna be less next round.
Well, they claim it's not. They claim
It's not, but
that there's nothing in the works. Because usually what happens, by the time you get everything done, there's a new model out there and you obsolete.
Yep.
I don't think we need to buy all radios. I mean, the fire rescue, yes. The sheriff's department, absolutely. The school system, I don't think it's up to them, but I don't think it's not such a critical thing if something happens with those radios.
Yeah.
But then the fact is, even with ours, no more than we have maintenance problems with them all of them, that, okay, you take one or two out of service and you use them for parts.
Right.
I mean, I want to look at somebody besides Motorola. I mean, I know I've always been a Motorola person. They've done well for us, but, sometimes you've got to keep them honest. And no, they're not the only people that make radios. But everything we've got right now is that.
Can we get Motorola here? I mean, this is $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And they should be able to show up here at the team and look at
Yeah,
some
it was-
radios.
3 to 10, what was it, when we put the dispatch on there and stuff. I mean, we've been throwing money at them for a long time.
oh yeah, I'm not sure I recall the specific number, but we're still paying the debt off on that, I believe.
But what we have done, in the fact that the county's taken over all the radios for emergency services, is, this company would go out and buy this radio, and this would go out and buy this radio, and we said, no, we're gonna stop that. We're gonna furnish the radios, and these, the way it's gonna be. But before we do this, I think we need to talk to the Emergency Services Council and let them know what is in the plans that, it's not gonna cost me anything, but it's still a big pain in the rear to switch out all these radios. Especially the ones in the vehicles and stuff. But I don't think we're ready to,
Yeah, we can push Motorola to extend this deadline.
well, they're gonna have to extend it. I mean,
You can't do $1 million transaction like that on a county this quick. And you
Right.
tell them that, and they need to show up here and look us in our face and say what they gotta say.
well, I don't think
I mean, and then we'll invite Harris too.
the one, there's not a whole lot of, if you don't have any knowledge about radios, there's not a whole lot of needed work, sitting down and meeting with them. But I do think Susan has got to broaden her wings a little bit, and, I know she's very used to working with Motorola and stuff. But we need to see what else is out there. But I do think I agree that September is gonna be the earliest that we're gonna be able to.
Yeah, we can certainly push for that, and if the board wants, we can ask him to come to the August meeting and answer questions.
Well, I don't know, yeah.
It would probably be more useful to get some comparatives instead of just having them show up. Yeah. So if there are other options that are out there, it would be good to know.
And if it does nothing but keep them honest, I mean,
Well, I think, if I recall correctly, one of the things that, in working with Motorola is not easy, that's for sure, but they have a state contract, and so that makes it easier on the procurement side to work with Motorola. I'm not sure about Harris, they may, but typically, as Mr. Harvey said, historically, the county's always worked with Motorola. So.
we have for the last 25 years.
So we'll do more and bring it back, and strongly encourage the Motorola salespeople to
But
extend that date.
my only gripe is, if I know now that in 6 years, I gotta do the same thing again. I mean, and there's some of these radios hardly have been used at all, depending on what vehicle they're in.
And you
and-
bought them yeah.
Yeah, I
Only
mean-
a few years ago.
Yeah, I have one on my desk that I probably turned on once, so.
Okay, is that good enough on that?
So, Steve, you ready to give your report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Update on the virus. The county statistics are really good as of the 9th of this month. We're showing negative numbers as far as new cases of the virus, over 7-day averages, the last 90 days, et cetera. And from my report last month, the total number of cases, I'm not sure if I missed the number or transposed it or not, but I think I reported 895 last month, but the health department site says 892 reported cases as of last Friday when I looked at this. We've had the same consistency, 41 persons have been hospitalized, and unfortunately 13 deaths have occurred from the virus. So at this point, subject to some significant reversal, things are working out well as far as combating the virus. And with respect to the county's operations, in my absence, we discussed it. Candy drafted a memo that was issued and circulated to the departments, et cetera, and I think we posted it in the courthouse and other county offices where the mask requirement has become an honor system. The direction that we received and the guidance from the health department was vaccinated persons don't need to wear a mask, unvaccinated persons should. But as I said, we are still offering people masks when they come to the courthouse, I suppose other county facilities, but we're not requiring anyone to wear a mask. or to respond to any questions about their vaccination status. American Rescue Plan is.
Steve, I got one question there. And this is picky. But up here, you're saying that it's an honor system,
Mhm.
and then in the very last line there, it is not an honor system. Is that a
Yeah, I think that's a typo.
type?
Yeah.
That's what I,
Excuse me, should have rewritten the report. Like that.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Probably is now an honor system, that's what I should have probably intended. The American Rescue Plan, which is the, about $2.9 million approximately the county will realize over the next year. The first half of that, is $1.5 million has been already received. We still have the same status. We're trying to decide how those funds can be utilized, and then we'll make recommendations to the board. Now, I would strongly encourage the board, if you have specific questions about, can we use it for this or use it for that, please submit them to us, because, as I said earlier, the guidance from the Treasury doesn't, it's not conducive to how the board, if you just had no requirements whatsoever, and you could just make decisions on it, the use of the funds would be more highly effective from my perspective, but that's not what the guidance is. It has to do with combating the virus in some shape or form.
You said that it was recommended to be used to combat the virus. Is that what it's supposed to be for? No other indications on how it should be used?
So, for example, you can use it for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So that's one thing.
These radios have got to be covered under that.
Yeah, so that's something, as I said, that we've discussed. It's
I think
potential.
Livingston sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm not-
I would say about a swimming pool.
That
I would
seems
just
like
say
we're
fire the
breeding
questions
ground.
to us if we don't come back next month with at least a few recommendations. You have, I think, until 2023 to utilize the fund.
Good, you're sorry.
So there's no real rush.
We've
to
never
pick
had
it.
that problem.
And then we just
Right.
Yeah, but
done.
really
We
not.
figured it out.
Like, you want to use it for the, suggested use it for the radios.
But you want the first one?
That's not its intention, though, is it? It's-
Yeah, but
Well,
it has,
that's to be determined. Some of the guidance is communications, and we're not sure what that means. In public safety.
people that are sick just have to wait for it.
But I mean,
Well, I thought we'd send you all the Treasury guidance. We'll send it to you again. But you'll see that I think I'm correct in what I'm trying to.
yeah, but is this called the stimulus package? Is this part of
It's
this?
the
No.
American Rescue Plan. This is just another stimulus package.
But
Well, if we're just spending on things that we were spending on anyway, we're not stimulating anything.
I
We're
mean,
not spending on anything right now. It's in a holding pattern, so to say.
Keep going.
let's go.
The Pioneer River Water System, good news, before the meeting, the Service Authority staff emailed me, and we had our second quarter sampling for the water system, and the GAC system that was installed previously is working very well. All our samples passed muster this time, so we're now on the good side of the health department and DEQ instead of in the negative. So hopefully that will continue. That was very encouraging news to get that before the meeting. And then we're still working on refurbishment of this Simcoe pump station. We actually realized from the Patterson construction that there's a couple of wastewater pumps that work in tandem with each other in the facility, and one of those has not been working in the way it's supposed to. So that's another thing we're going to have that we're combating. But it's hopefully by the next meeting, all this will be behind us. The comp plan, as I mentioned earlier, planning staff are meeting with PDC staff on Monday to work towards the completion of RFP, a request for proposals, which will be circulated to the commission and to the board for review and comment. the cigarette tax,
I thought she met Monday of this week.
Monday of next week.
Well, that's what she told me, that she had somebody coming in on.
Yeah, so.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
I sent the board this information we have from, I wasn't here when the regional meeting was conducted, but the impetus for implementation of cigarette taxes to do so regionally through the creation of a regional entity, and the participating localities would each individually pass an ordinance to enact the tax, but it would be uniform, and then it would be across the region, then it would be administered probably by an entity created through the Planning District Commission.
So and this is a question I need to answer for myself. Is there gonna be a cigarette tax board, or is it gonna be kind of through the TJP?
Can we speak up a little bit so we can hear down here?
Sorry, my mic was off. Is it a board structure? I'm trying to remember. That's what I
I think
thought.
it's a board structure.
So it'd be like 2 reps from Nelson, kind of similar to
Or
the
at least one.
At least one.
That's in the works.
Yeah, so, yeah, I hadn't asked staff.
Yeah, so we're gonna bring back, I think, a resolution, maybe a draft ordinance for the board to consider next month.
Okay.
And as I said, I sent the board by email, Ms. Barton, I think it's in your inbox, the background information on this from our staff's attendance of the regional workshop on this tax. The general reassessment is still in process. Mr. Wampler, who's the lead for Wampler East, has indicated he'll be here in September, hopefully with some meaningful information. The VDOT tab,
Now, have they indicated that the assessments are going up
yes.
significantly?
Well, I don't want to necessarily say anything definitively, but my guess is 9% or more.
It depends on what sales are.
And it's very geographically specific. So, it's always my hope that it's just wintergreen and nowhere else.
You should count on that one.
We can instruct them.
That backfired on you last time.
Yeah, I remember. Those are fun times.
Well, I'll note to the board, if the overall increase is 1% or more, you have a requirement to conduct a public hearing and either decide to set the
You
rate,
could love.
equalize it, keep some or keep all of it, whatever the increase is. So you can't just let it go.
That's next year.
Mhm. They'll report in December, 1st of January, it will be in the board's hands at some point prior to the adoption of the budget.
Yeah, you have to do it before you set the tax rate.
Yeah. But it's coming forward, that's for sure. This should be rounding the bend pretty soon. The TAP grants, through the Planning District Commission staff, we submit pre-applications to VDOT for the Gladstone Depot and the Loveland revitalization projects. So we should know probably end of this month, early August, if those 2 applications move to the final application status, which I think then the applications would be due October 1st. So we're in process. Redistricting, we still don't know, but my understanding is we should be hearing something from the Census Bureau by August 18th that will then enable us to start working on redistricting in the county if it's absolutely necessary. Questions or anything else?
No.
I'm good. There's no questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
If, Mr. Reed, if I say just for brevity purposes, can we just go on to appointments and then kind of roll in the other 3 back to back? Because we do have 2 appointments, it looks like.
I have no objection. Why don't you go with appointments?
All right, we're in appointments. Mr. Chairman, as it relates to the Nelson County Economic Development Authority, I guess, looks like Kim Bryant has requested reappointment, right, Grace? And no other applications?
Right.
Kim has done an excellent job participating with that, and if there's out objection, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we reappoint her. Kim Bryant. EDA,
Second.
second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Then we have the Library Advisory Committee, Jean Holiday representing the South District, wishes to be reappointed.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? Okay.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
And then we have an application from Ben Butler for the vacancy on the Board of Building Code Appeals.
Yes.
We make a motion on that.
I move that we appoint Ben Butler to
Second.
replace Steve Crandall.
Second from Skip.
Discussion? Anybody know Mr. Butler?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He is,
one of the person.
Yeah.
And he knows Jesse and trusts him.
he
So
is.
perfect.
The things we say he says about you, too.
You'll meet him
No, he
tonight.
doesn't say that about me.
Homes Association.
Gotcha.
He'll be here tonight.
He bought the old firehouse at Rockfish and has a business in the back, plus he's leasing at the front.
That was me.
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
All right?
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, are there any building code appeals coming up? Do we know of any?
One's coming up.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, very briefly, the building department gave notice to a property owner who constructed a building within the floodplain without a building permit. And the building official gave the property owner a year to address that. They didn't, so the department gave notice to remove the structure, and the property owner has retained legal counsel, and they're appealing that directive from the county to the building code of appeals.
Got it.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, a building without a permit issued and in the floodplain, so.
Nice. Farm use.
Well, that's a lot of circumstances to that, whether
We'll
it
let,
can be done or can't be done, and,
we'll let them decide.
yeah.
That's their job. All right.
All right, that's it on the
Okay.
appointments.
We still have 2 vacancies, true?
Correct.
Yeah,
Or 3?
Two.
two.
The Social Services Board and the Dock Board.
Okay.
You know, I think,
Mr. Burdick, did he call Mr. Burdick?
I haven't received any.
Okay,
They need to fill out the application.
His wife said that she was gonna tell him to do that, so I'll find out about this week.
Okay, let's go on to, as proposed, correspondence and directives. Mr. Parr, are you ready to have anything on that? Any reports or such?
Yeah.
Board reports?
Yeah.
Is that where we are?
Yeah.
Reports, yeah. Board reports. Yes, so we had, our second capital improvement committee meeting with the 2x2 with the school board. Mr. Carter and I attended, so help me fill in the gaps as I go through some of my notes, if you don't mind. A couple of things that came up, they talked about the greenhouse project, which they had projected, and I'm confused on this, they projected $255,000 for the project. Due to COVID, there's been a huge increase in demand for greenhouses being constructed, so the project came in at $450,000. But then it says we had allocated $441,000 anyway, so it's not that big of a hit, right? What's the difference in the projected cost of 255 and the local funds of 441?
They have the cash on hand.
Okay, so that's their local funds. They had $441,000 earmarked for the project, okay.
They said they weren't gonna request any more funding.
Right, exactly, not one. And, it looks like that the project should be completed in time for the second semester. Yeah, so it should be finished by January 1st.
Are they gonna tear it down and rebuild it, or?
I'm pretty sure,
Down to the foundation.
All the way to the
and then
foundation.
rebuild it from there.
Yeah. It's gonna be pretty nice too. Projects, let's see, upcoming projects, they also had, some safety vestibules they were gonna be putting in. They had planned on that being $75,000. It ended up coming in at $191,000. But again, they have funding and they're able to use some safety grant money, so they're taking care of that. Where I think the big request is coming in from us, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but, they received from the American Rescue Plan $3.7 million, and they're looking to allocate 1.5 million of that for the high school roof and the high school renovation project, which is probably going to be around a $3 million project. And so my takeaway from that meeting was they were kind of looking to us for that additional 1.5 million of that project, which would include the roof. There's some brickwork, and then renovating, which will probably include some asbestos tile removal and some, because back when the renovations were done, I guess it's like 18 years ago, in the addition of the middle school, the high school basically got a little bit of work, some air conditioning and windows, and not a whole lot done on that end. And so now they're looking to do some renovations
Well,
there.
they got over 1.5 million left over in that fund they talked about.
2.2, and that would go to, what are they, the learning
Learning loss.
loss.
Does that, I guess that's a school board question on how that works. Is that more, I guess I'll save it for that. Learning loss, I just don't know what that is.
Learning loss, that's what, the federal terminology is.
For what?
For the last year.
Yeah.
The last year.
I'm learning loss.
Loss.
Okay, okay.
And then nothing, there was no official request of us. They were just gave us a handout explaining what some of their plans were.
Right, so
Just a heads up.
Yeah,
do you expect,
I sent that sheet to the board.
Okay.
do you expect the money for the high school renovation to be part of the next year's budget? Is that the plan?
I would assume it's gonna be part of their capital request from us, yes.
They should be able to take care of most of it with all this. I mean, they've gotten hand over fist money from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna receive, close to $6 million in this American Rescue Plan. And then I think the governor, I caught this before the meeting, is having some announcement Friday on how the state's gonna use their ARP funding. If I saw that, I just looked at the, internet quickly, and, the state has billions of dollars, and some of that may be used for school infrastructure. So hopefully we can, if that's correct, we can snag some of that money for some of the school projects.
Bathrooms and concession stands.
Seen that come up.
Right. We almost forgot.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Tommy wants to do it, I think.
I don't,
Pass one of those, Derek.
what? Does everybody have a copy of that?
What is now? Sorry, are you done?
I'm done.
The group with the Vietnam Memorial thing, or museum thing, Creed is going to introduce a deal that could access into some money for that. Of course, Cree was at their open house they had that time and was very impressed. And he was saying that if the board of supervisors would endorse this, no money at all, just endorse it, it would make a lot of headway with the state on it, trying to get the money.
I think this is, so basically the compliment, basically this is gonna give them the opportunity to get a little bit of a head start. They're unable to fundraise, all this is just an endorsement from us. Steve, do you have any questions as it relates to this letter?
You know, Mr. Saunders, when he was here for the broadband, open meeting related, he gave me a copy and he could brief me real quickly. As Mr. Harvey said, what's proposed is for Senator Deeds to introduce a budget amendment for the next session to get some state funding for this. And Mr. Saunders indicated that Governor Northam may include this in his budget proposal for the next biennium budget. So certainly they want the board's endorsement. They're not asking for county funding. This is the board's support.
So we don't necessarily have to do this exact letter. We can just instruct Steve to draft a letter of endorsement.
I mean, it looks pretty good, but I may change it a little bit
Yeah.
if the board supports it.
Who is going to manage the museum?
They would.
Who's they?
The Vietnam group, they have a 501c3, I think.
It's it would be up to them to operate the whole thing.
And all those people are from here, from Nelson County?
Well, no, they got from Amherst, I think.
But it's gonna stay in Nelson.
Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about this last year, remember, we endorsed it and I spoke for it.
Yeah, we can do it.
But I'm curious, who's going to, what's the word that's used in the museum? The person who decides what's in it, what's that called?
Yeah, Curator.
Curator.
Thank you, Justin.
Who's gonna decide what's in it? I mean,
well, it's what they've got.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think the instruction to staff to draft a letter of endorsement for this opportunity, and referencing this as a model, but corrections as needed.
They think
It's
everything's.
just,
Or do
I
you-
just don't want to be someone with an axe to grind.
Oh, no. It has not been, none of that.
I'm just seeing the letter for the first time now, so I'm not,
Well, it didn't come to print until this morning. or
okay,
something.
well, is it okay to defer this to the next meeting?
Mr. Saunders advised me, I'm not sure what he.
There's a deadline of like Friday.
Yeah,
I mean, we could just,
Which your senator that's proposing this thing, Ernie.
Yeah, I hate, I hate 6-day deadlines on something that I haven't seen before,
Well,
unless it's really critical, in terms of timeliness.
This-
Could we have gotten this before now?
no,
No,
because it popped up just,
literally, yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
it was,
Yeah, I received it at the end of the broadband authority meeting, so.
So did I.
and I agree with you 100% on that,
Ernie, while you're researching, can I go into my reports?
Sure. When do you
Keep
report?
reading.
this is, I think it's pretty much a done deal with what
Wow.
they were saying.
Let me do my report real quick while Ernie reads.
Well, I'm not going to make a decision based on looking at my laptop right now.
Oh, I thought that's what you were.
Well, I was looking at it, but that doesn't mean that I feel any differently about it after I read it.
Okay, then do we want to just make a motion to endorse it?
What's the will of,
I move that we endorse the letter that was presented to us.
Picks, with staff's discretion at editing. Second.
any further discussion?
it's like him, what am I endorsing? I don't know what, I mean, just, museum, yeah, sure.
Creek Deed is trying to get some money, grant money
Okay.
for them.
And we're supportive without a
And
payment.
he's
State
supposed
funding.
to,
State funding.
state funding, yeah.
Yeah, I got this.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, well, I endorsed last time, we talked about a year but Vietnam is a highly complex situation.
It was something that a little bit come up overnight.
So, yeah, sure, I mean,
All right, Grace, call the question.
Mr. Barton,
yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes,
Mr. Harvey,
Yes,
Mr. Reed.
No. Okay. Jesse?
my
you're
reports
up
are
for
gonna be
reports.
nice and quick. I'm the chairman of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District now, so I had a meeting recently that I ran, it was exciting. We're trying to get away from virtual meetings starting in August. It's gonna be a lot, we're transitioning into, trying to get our folks in-house and in person. Lots of fun developments, as it relates to regional housing partnership. I just, got word that the Thomas Jefferson Planning District, the regional housing side of it, has just gotten a grant of $2 million, which is gonna flow into the communities of the TJPDC, Charlottesville, Albemarle, Nelson, Savannah, and all of that. So that's some exciting news that will be shared amongst the county. And of course, that'll probably go to more notification to the Nelson Community Foundation. As it relates to Water Authority, we're still waiting and seeing. We're supposed to get a good report this Thursday about the status of the two big projects of Wintergreen and Skylar and some other capital improvements. Beyond that, that is all I think I have from the 10,000 foot view. Charlie?
Pardon? Okay, just very quickly, Jefferson Area Board for the Aging. The doors are all open on the senior centers and Java facilities. Because of the age of everybody, there's still some COVID protocols they have in place so that they can continue to, or so they can begin getting their programs up and running again. But people are showing up. They're starting to fill things up again, and the folks that have been kept away from the senior centers are very happy that they're getting back together again. I just wanted to bring that up. Jesse gave the Service Authority report, and the Planning Commission information we have, we'll be dealing with in our evening session. So there's not much else to report from that. That's it.
Can I look for a motion to continue this meeting?
Let's quickly go through directives or correspondence if we have it.
I guess.
Then we can. Mr. Parr.
Tommy made a comment earlier, that Steve hit the right buttons. And I just wanted to expand on that a little bit and thank Steve for his work. VDOT did their thing on the road, and I think that Steve's pressure and communication really helped the situation on Route 6. And so thank you for that.
Thank you very much. If I'm just real quick, well, it's just my responsibility, but the VDOT people were very responsive. It just took a little bit of persistence to get them to do a little bit more.
just walking through that configuration, you got Lynchburg District, and you got Culpeper District, and Lynchburg's who was working through getting Route 6 straightened out.
Well, both administrators for the two districts I had several conference calls with them. I can tell the board that.
But it was not just a VDOT thing, it was a state police and a local law enforcement along with me. I mean, it was a coordinated effort that had to happen.
Right.
And it took some time. Of course, it seemed like as soon as things started going smoothly, they finished the project,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But, but I do think, and I made a joking comment earlier, but I'll say, the public, sharing of information on the situation on Route 6 made a huge impact on our ability to act on this. And all joking aside, that public information mainly came from posts that people were making on Facebook. And every time somebody would get stuck on Route 6, somebody was saying, hey, Route 6 is blocked again, be careful. And having that information on such a timely basis really helped us, I think.
If I could hopefully say something and add a little humor, both my wife, both my daughters, and at one point myself encountered those trucks on 6, or my wife got one on that back road that leads up to the post office, and it was stuck in the curve. And luckily she could get around it. And at dinner one night, we were talking about it. My younger daughter says, you need to do more about this. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to do more.
But nice job.
Thank you so much, Dad.
Ms. Rutherford?
I'm good. I'm pretty good on correspondence. I get lots of emails all the time.
I have one question for Steve, and you don't have to answer this now, but I've had a couple of requests, and I don't know the current information on this. And maybe Mr. Blanc discussed this at TJPDC, I don't know, but my understanding is that the county now has some ability to either levy a charge or restrict single-use plastic bags at retailers.
Is that cities or is that?
I don't know. I'm
not familiar.
right. I think there's something out there. I don't know what it is.
You
but
are correct.
But I'm just wondering what that is and if that's
Maybe
something.
a change in state law that became effective July 1st, but I don't know. That's the first I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a city thing, I'm pretty, because I think Charlottesville just took that up.
Okay. Is it something that you could look into for me?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And see if there's, if we have some ability to do that. Mr. Harvey?
No.
Okay. Then, if there's no other business, we could adjourn to our evening session, which will start up again at 7.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this meeting to 7 o'clock.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
That's what we're going to do the first session.
All right, so you guys have a reservation at Vito's,
Nice.
5-ish, so we're
Okay.
okay.
We're the ish part.
We're the ish.
With the back end.
Not
We're getting
Mama's
to that.
and Cafe, we're both closed.